There's one person that jumped out to me that I think deserves her flowers, and she's getting them. But there's never enough flowers when you're in the shoes of someone like Dawn Staley, who is the women's basketball coach at the University of South Carolina. Um, and listen, man, Dawn is, let me call it, Coach Staley is doing her thing, as we all know. And if you don't know, you got some time, man. Check out South Carolina and just watch them play. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. Um, but yeah, man, I'm here to give Coach Staley her flowers during Women's History Month.
It's your boy Verse, and this is Open Mike with OTR Mike.
Shit, yeah.
Yo, yo, yo. What up, good people? It's your boy OTR Mike, and let me be the first to welcome you back to another episode of Open Mike with yours truly. That's right. This is the show where the mic is open for any discussion, no matter what it is, who it is, or where it is. Man, let me thank you guys for tuning in again as I start every show. Told y'all I was back, man. I took a little hiatus. Life be life, and check out that episode that I dropped about life it, right? But I'm back, man. I'm here to give you that content. So I appreciate y'all checking back in with your boy. So, as I always say, and I'm gonna try to stay true to that. I won't be before you long. Um, but man, today's topic kind of hit me, man, this weekend with all the, you know, college basketball, NCAA tournaments going on, the women's tournaments are jumping off, they're underway. And then, I realized that it hit me that, this is Women's History Month. Duh, Mike. So it's like, why not show some love to the ladies, right? Um, and there's it's so many people that you can pick and talk about during this month. Um, but like I said, just from the tournaments going on, there's one person that jumped out to me that I think deserves her flowers, and she's getting them. But there's never enough flowers when you're in the shoes of someone like Dawn Staley, who is the women's basketball coach at the University of South Carolina. Um, and listen, man, Dawn is, let me call it, Coach Staley is doing her thing, as we all know. And if you don't know, you got some time, man. Check out South Carolina and just watch them play. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch. Um, but yeah, man, I'm here to give Coach Staley her flowers during Women's History Month, right? Now, most people nowadays, they know Dawn Staley as a coach, right? Now, the hardcore fans know her beyond her coaching career, but, Dawn Staley was just as decorated as a player as she is a coach, right? Um, she was a beast. Let's just keep it 100. I mean, she played college basketball at the University of Virginia. Um, where her jersey is retired, might I add. Uh, she won two National Player of the Year awards back to back. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if that doesn't tell you how good she was, I don't know what else will. Um, she also won 3 gold medals. And she won, well, 4 total, 3 as a player, 1 as a coach. She played in the ABL, which was the professional league for the women before the WNBA. started, and then when the WNBA started, I think in 1999, I believe, or something like that. I could be wrong, but uh, she was drafted into the WNBA, where she was a six-time All-Star, and she was voted as one of the top 15 players of all time in the WNBA. So, listen, Dawn Staley was a beast outside of the beast she is as a coach. All right. So let's make that clear. Um, as I pointed out, winning back to back Player of the Year awards in the 90s, back when, the game is the women's game is probably uh, as competitive as it has been in a long, long time right now. It's a lot of talent across the board. But back in the 90s, man, you had like surefire Hall of Fame players, you know. Um, so to win that award back to back, man, that says a lot about her as a player, man. And the crazy thing about that is she began her coaching career while she was still playing. She started coaching at the University of Temple, I believe, in 2000, which was just about her last year as a player in the WNBA. I think she retired in 2001, if I'm not mistaken. But she began at the University of Temple, which is in her hometown of Philadelphia. Shout out to my Philly folks. If you were wondering why sometimes you might see her on the sideline in a Philadelphia hoodie or a jersey, that's why she's from Philly. And she had pretty much instant success at Temple in her 8-year career. She made the NCAA tournament there 6 of those 8 years. She won the Atlantic 10 regular season championship 3 times. She won the A10 conference tournament 4 times. It was the A10 Coach of the Year back-to-back seasons in '04 and '05. So she made her mark early in the coaching game. And the crazy thing is, looking into her story, she really, really didn't want to coach. I mean, coaching wasn't something that she thought was in her future. Um, I believe the AD at Temple had approached her about the idea, and she was like, and she tried it, man, and she hit the ground running, man. She compiled a record at Temple of 172 and 80 while she was there, man. So that was success. Um, as a first time coach, really. You know, um, then of course she moved on to South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, I should say, where she currently is. And man, talking about building a program from the ground up, man. That's what she did there. People are watching South Carolina over the last couple of years, and they're like, man, she they must have been like that. She must have took a job that was, um, already winning and had success. That's not the case. Her first 3 years with the Gamecocks, they were 42 and 48. 42 and 48. She had losing seasons her first 3 years. But as we see now, things changed quickly. She since then she hasn't missed an NCAA tournament. She made the Final Four times and winning the national championship 2 times in 2017 and 2022 last year. And quite honestly, she might have 3 championships right now if it wasn't for the COVID shortened season that we all know ended up canceling the tournament that year. But she had a heck of a team that year too, and we're quite one of the favorites to make a run at a championship then. So again, man, like Dawn Staley as a player, as a coach, I mean, it's got to be one of the greatest transitions um, in the game, right? I mean, you got Steve Kerr, who was a solid player, right? Who won championships as a coach. There's a couple other, but to be as great as she was as a player, um, and to be a great coach like she is now, it doesn't always translate, right? Um, we seen Magic Johnson and others who tried it, and then we see and hear people say they they wouldn't do it because it when you great like that, man, you expect that same thing out of your players, right? And some people don't know how to manifest that, right? Because you only know of one way to play, and that's the top of the top. So when you get players who aren't that, it's hard for players who played at the top of the game all the time to handle that. But look, man, to continue to highlight her career, I got some notes here, man, that I'm gonna give to you guys that are just off the charts. One of which South Carolina has only lost 8 games in the last 4 seasons. So, mind you, her first 3 seasons she lost 48 games at South Carolina. Her last four, including this one that's still going on, they have only lost 8 games. And they are every bit of on track to make another championship run this year as we speak. She is currently 400 and 105 at South Carolina and 572 and 85 overall in her amazing coaching career. She has been the SEC Coach of the Year 6 times, winning an award back to back twice. She made history as the first person ever, ever to win the Naismith Award as a player and a coach, which she's won both the Player of the Year and the Coach of the Year twice. Right. Those listening, you can't see the face I just made, but yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Put some respect on her name, man. Put some respect on her name. Um, but there's another side of Dawn Staley, right? That really, really drew me to wanting to highlight her at this moment, man. And that's the fact that Coach Staley is willing to use her platforms to make a statement for the game, for social issues that's going on. But she really, really puts on for women's college basketball. And you got to respect it, right? It's not many people who are having the success that she is, um, that are willing to make statements and stances like she is, right? Because you got a lot to lose, right? The magnifying glass and the microscope is already on you. So you make certain statements, um, and depending on how they go, those situations go, they may look down on you. I know earlier this year, um, she refused uh, to play a game or took a team off of the team schedule because there was talk of the fans at this particular university making racist remarks to a player on another team. And she made a stance and said, well, we're not going to play there. Um, and then different stories came out, different investigations, and, whichever way you want to lean towards it. In some cases, it looked like the statement might not have been true. And in some cases, it did. But she made the statement and she rolled with it. And she caught some flack for it, but she still rolled with it. So I respect that she's willing to continue to use her platforms to put on not for just the game of women's basketball, but uh, just worldly issues that we have going on all the time. So I respect it. But on the women's basketball tip, Um, one stance that she made, of course, that a lot of people did, but I respect that what she did on the sideline is, she wore a free BG, the Brittany Griner shirt while she was coaching the game. And we all know what happened to Brittany. Well, she was detained in Russia and held there for way, way too long. And she was willing to make that statement on her platform while she's coaching in front of millions and millions of people. So I respect that. Coach Staley also wore the hoodie, the women's basketball versus everybody hoodie. And this was during a time, man, when we found out like the ladies weren't getting treated like the men. I remember back on doing an off the record episode um, about we had an OTR sports segment, and we talked about uh, the difference. It was around the same time of year. It was It was the NCAA tournaments for the women's and the men. And like you would see pictures that the boys, the men were posting, and they getting treated like kings. Man, they eating fine dining. Man, you got workout gyms. I mean, they created gyms out of in conference rooms of some of the the, the hotels that these teams were staying in, like world class gyms, right? Created like that in a conference room, and then pictures started to surface from some of the women basketball players, and the dining wasn't the same at all. It was terrible. The gym, the makeshift gyms that they made for them was like a rack of dumbbells, um, some jump ropes. It was just BS, right? Um, and the NCAA looked real, real bad during that time. And, Don and other people made this stance with the WBB versus everybody shirts and hoodies. It's another time that she wore it on the sideline. And man, she was willing to go head up with that. And, to get some respect on the ladies' game. Um, she also recently, and I don't have a picture of this one or the video, but it was pretty dope. South Carolina played Norfolk State, and HBCU in the first round of the NCAA tournament. South Carolina won, but um, Norfolk had a player, sophomore, named Kiera Wheeler, uh, who apparently was given some of the best players in women's college basketball, Leah Boston being one, like the work, right? So after beating Norfolk State by almost 40 points, Dawn Staley went over to the Norfolk State locker room and she pulled up Kiera Wheeler in front of her teammates and man gave her props, and gave the team their props, but she gave Kiera Wheeler in particular her props on how she was giving her post players the business. Um, and man, she didn't have to do that. And how many coaches do that, right? Um, and to be honest with you, luckily one of the players from Norfolk State was recording because we probably wouldn't have heard about it, right? And that's a good and a bad thing. I mean, that just means that Dawn isn't doing it for the attention or the kudos, right? But you know, these type of things need to be brought to light. That you have coaches like this um that put on like that. You know what I mean? Um, but then recently, man, just this past weekend, and when I say weekend, I'm talking about opening weekend of the NCAA tournaments. I don't know when you're gonna get this episode, but she recently wore a Cheney University jersey on the sideline. Now, for those of you who do not know, Cheney State University was the first HBCU to make a women's basketball Final Four, and Coach Staley wanted to pay homage to that and wore their jersey on the sideline on one of the biggest stages in sports, the NCAA tournament. And part of the reason she wanted to do that was because that team at Cheney State University, um, which is now Cheney University, I believe, was coached by C. Vivian Stringer, who in her own right is one of the greatest uh, women's basketball coaches, not even just women's basketball, one of the greatest coaches in basketball history, college basketball history. She was the coach of that team. Um, and her birthday, she just had a birthday that recently passed, of March 17th, I believe it was. Um, so Staley wanted to pay homage to her for one, because as a black woman herself, Coach Staley feels like uh, Coach Stringer opened up some doors that she is now walking through herself. And then she wore number 44 in particular, and the name of the player who wore that jersey during that historic run, her name slips me. But that's a player who was from Dawn Staley's hometown. Number 44 is the number. Put it in the comments of the name of the player. I'm sorry, that name slipped my mind. Those, but anyway, she wanted to pay homage to that, right? And again, here's a coach with a huge platform, right? Um, and she made that stance or statement. So that's one of the things that I truly, truly love and respect about Coach Staley. Um, she just is putting on for the women's basketball game 100%. And you have to respect that. Um, she's willing to advocate for the game at no end. Um, and even though things has gotten better for the ladies, um, just women's basketball in general, she it still has a long way to go, right? They corrected some things, but they had to be called out first to correct those things, right? So there's still work to be done, but you know, Coach Staley and a lot of the others are making sure that those changes are being made. Even on the professional level, you have Brianna Stewart and Asia Wilson, and a lot of the WNBA players that are putting on and advocating for uh, better pay um, for the WNBA players. Also, travel, right? There's uh, been long standing rumor that the WNBA players, man, they travel like you and I. It would be nothing for you to see WNBA players on the same flight as you, right? Where the NBA players are flying private charter, right? So, and don't get it twisted. There's a lot of NBA players that are behind the ladies and helping them advocate for the game and better wages and better conditions. So salute to them as well. So it's a lot of work that needs to be done. But I have a love for women's basketball, period. I mean, my wife, she just retired from her coaching career. She coached high school basketball for years and she was successful herself. And I know the type of work that she put in because I see it. So I know these ladies like Coach Staley, C. Vivian Stringer, Carolyn Beck. Man, it's a lot that just put on, not just for uh, coaches of color, but just coaches in general. Right. So salute to Coach Dawn Staley doing Women's History Month. It's coming to a close, but I had to get an episode in to discuss our ladies and how they doing it. So shout out to Dawn Staley. And hopefully, man, they make another run and win another championship. I surely am rooting for them. Right. So that's it. 24 minutes. Short, right? I said I wouldn't be before you long. I'm getting better with that. So, look, man, thank you guys for tuning in, for checking me out on another episode of Open Mic with yours truly. Man, I cannot, I know I go down a rabbit hole, man, on the end of shows, man. But I really truly do appreciate y'all listening to the show. I really do. So for more about myself and the show, man, follow me on Twitter and TikTok at OTR_Mike, and follow me on Instagram at OTR Mike_. I follow back if you're not on that weird crap. A couple of y'all, I don't need y'all. I don't need help promoting my podcast. All right. I don't need help. I appreciate the grind of those that jump in the inbox trying to sell me something. Don't waste your time, bro. Don't waste your time. But anyway, follow me there for all my audio listeners, man. The show is available on all your favorite streaming platforms, man. Check it out. Give me a 5-star rating. If you're watching on YouTube, man, hit that like button, hit that bell. And if you are not subscribed, subscribe. Help your boy out. I'm on the road to 300 subscribers. I'm close. Help me out. Then from 300, we going to 500. Then from 500, we going to 500 million. 500 million. But yeah, that is the show. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll catch y'all next time, man. We out. Peace.